Hello and welcome to TheAIbumMan, and today I'm going to be reviewing Chasing Yesterday by Noel Gallagher's High Flying Birds. And just before we get started, yes, I will be reviewing Steven Wilson's new album next. Okay, let's move on. Oasis, well, I mean, they're a band I rarely talk about on this channel, to be quite honest, but they have had a profound impact upon my musical taste. Their addicting melodies, iconic acoustic guitar, killer rock songs, and just the general angst of the tumultuous relationship between brothers. Oasis really deserved to be on top of the world, and well, they were, I think, by far and away. They were the best Britpop band in the scene. Pulp comes slightly close, and then I would say Blur trailing miles and miles behind. And I was very disappointed when they broke up in 2009, since I didn't ever have the opportunity to see them live. And I actually enjoyed many songs from their last album, Dig Out Your Soul. I thought the first half of it was really quite strong. Yes, it petered away quite a bit in the second half, but hey, I mean, you know, it certainly wasn't one of their best. They'd lost it a fair bit by then. And since then, both brothers have started solo careers. Liam with BDI, which is now defunct, thank God. That was an abominable project that made two turds of albums, and those albums really made Oasis standing on the shores as a giant seem like morning glory in comparison. Whereas Noel's Flying Birds was definitely more regarded by fans, and it was definitely more enjoyable, but ultimately I can't say I found it amazing. I did think it was fairly lackluster, and I'm going to be honest, I was disappointed. People did rave about this album, but it really just didn't strike me. Maybe I was expecting too much. I mean, part of me was just expecting another Morning Glory, but alas, it really wasn't it. And it's an album, even in retrospect, I still find it fails to bring a smile to my face. So where do I stand with Chasing Yesterday then? Do I see it as a marked improvement from his debut solo album? Let's see. When the lead single dropped in November 2014, titled Heat of the Moment, I nervously went to listen to. A small part of me was kind of wondering perhaps that maybe Noel had decided to cover the classic Asia song of the same name, Heat of the Moment, from the 80s. Big single, massive selling album, great album, love Asia. Seen him live, cool band. But obviously this bears no resemblance to the classic Asia rock song. Instead, what we do find is one of the best tracks he's put out in recent years. I definitely like this as a single. I get a feel of that sort of definitely maybe Oasis sound, but kind of condensed into a modern setting with a fresh perspective. It's a subtle track with various instruments coming together to create a layered sound, the occasional bell chimes, the constant beat and bass riff underpinning Noel's vocals. Very strong melody driving the song, and it definitely makes sense as a lead single, even with its na 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 na, which may come across as a bit silly to some, and sure, I can understand some of the criticisms of that. Maybe it would have fit better on a Kaiser Chiefs album, I can kind of agree there. But I do feel this song does the job of an up-tempo rocker pretty darn well. Though perhaps more interesting is actually the opener of the album called The Riverman. This almost tricks you into thinking it's Wonderwall of that opening acoustic guitar passage, and don't tell me you weren't fooled by it, because I think most people listen to it is so similar to Wonderwall, that opening little bit. But actually it progresses into one of the most effective acoustic-driven tracks on the album. It's sort of just a mid-tempo ballad, which Noel definitely does plenty of. But what I like about it, and definitely something that runs throughout the album, this is just a wash with a far more diverse musical arrangement than I'd usually expect for a Noel album. Its dreamy styling, surprising sax solo, and moody guitar parts just capture a sense of atmosphere that I found rarely present in Oasis, and it's definitely highlights some of the hidden strengths of Noel's writing. It's definitely a maturely written song with diversity far more to the forefront than I would have expected, though yet also with that melodic sensibility of Oasis and a chorus that sounds, well, as Oasis as kind of humanly possible. Atmosphere is definitely, though, a word we're going to be coming back to throughout this review, because I really feel that's what this album's centred around and why it's better than the debut. I definitely do think that Noel's best tracks, and well, they're kind of bread and butter from, are the mid-tempo ballads. Dying of the Light is definitely one that's been heavily praised by Oasis fans for good reason. If you gave this a boost of electric guitar, it wouldn't feel too dissimilar to an Oasis song, quite honestly. And what sets this ballad apart is that while it has a simple backbone of tight pop melodies, just acoustic guitar, standard rock beats, the usual fare, the reason that the song is so engaging is not merely just due to the great execution of these elements, but to the soundscape. Again, come back to the dreamy sounds, the reverberated guitar, and these sort of cascading keyboards from Mike Rowe. It just adds that extra texture and those dynamics to the mid-tempo ballads, which otherwise, let's be honest, can feel a bit formulaic and repetitive. Therefore, Dying of the Light just comes together to be a far more compelling package than I found on the first album. In a similar vein, but definitely the most experimental track on the album, would have to be The Right Stuff. This I've heard, though I'm not too sure because I don't know that much about this project, was a song potentially from the cancelled collaboration with Amorphous Androgynous, who I've heard of them, but I don't really know anything about them. I can't say I really know much about this scrapped project. I've read a bit about it, but not too sure. They seem to be more of a sort of a psychedelic type band. I certainly know that Noel is influenced by that type of music. And while some detractors may accuse him just overall of just doing what he did with Oasis and just hashing out his solo stuff, if someone says that to you, you play them the right stuff, because this track just proves how different his solo stuff is from Oasis. Musically, the first half is simply instrumental. Noel's acoustic guitar over a kind of a jazzy beat, some tenor sax thrown in for good measure, a little sprinkling of piano and splattering of vibrating notes from the guitar before we get this really interesting duet from Noel with Joy Rose. And one of the more unique aspects about this is actually in how it's mixed, since the vocals are far further back in the mix than I personally would have expected, with a sort of a melancholic tone to them as the constant drum beat continues. I definitely find a sort of a stillness in the repetition of the main musical ideas that just has this effect of building tension before Noel just at one point lets out his singing. Into the mix goes far clearer, or Joy's harmony is just pushed to the side, but yet still present. We get this sort of soaring guitar solo with honestly some Gilmour-esque stylings. This was a really unexpected song, kind of jazzy, kind of psychedelic, experimental, and yet firmly and melodically Noel Gallagher. Really, really good song. Definitely took me a couple of listens to quite get used to, but it's one of my absolute favourites from the album. Though unfortunately I can't be all positive about this album. It does have its fair share of flaws, and it does, I'm afraid to say, suffer some of the stilted musical progression that his debut did. There's some things that just feel like he wrote them because he felt he kind of had to write in that style almost. An example I may point out is the almost sort of B-side sounds of the glam-influenced Bowie-like song Girl with X-Ray Eyes, which, let's just be kind of honest here, bears a striking similarity to Starman, which is my second favourite Bowie song, because of course the best's The Laughing Gnome. This just feels like a third-rate version, lacking the meat, substance and diversity also just of previous tracks on this album. It's just fairly plain, dialed in, Noel on his acoustic guitar and something that goes in one ear and quite frankly straight out the other. It's pleasant but while you're hearing it, but honestly if you put a gun to my head 5 minutes after hearing it and ask me to hum the melody or just pull the trigger, then I'm not going to be living much longer, to put it that way. A track I've heard a lot of people like that I really just don't get on this album is The Mexican. I just really don't have any idea at all why people seem to like this. I think it's easily one of the worst. It's probably the worst track on the album. It's got these boring country guitar riff that's simplistic and not even effective at being simplistic. It's just a lackluster chorus, the same basic riff pretty much throughout, and yeah, sure, the rhythm section has a little life to it, but this song falls flat. And even though it was a part of the scrapped collaboration we talked about with The Right Stuff, with Amorphous Androgynous, I don't know, there just seems to be something completely missing here. It doesn't resonate with me at all. I find the melodies weak and the build just ultimately unsatisfying. There's just nothing to this that piques my interest as there was with a track like The Right Stuff, also produced by these guys. Well, before concluding, I probably should talk about the final track, The Ballad of the Mighty I, featuring Johnny Marr. And by the way, let's make this clear. I don't like the Smiths, in case anyone was wondering. I think that Marr actually has kind of a cool style, his jangly guitar playing, it's distinct, I'll give him that, but Smiths, no, 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 meters, murder, not for me. This track I just feel is kind of meh. The problems I have is really the beat of this song never bloody changes. It has this incessant, four to the floor, dance-like beat that just goes on and on and on, with a pumping bass line, and really it's so boring in the musical department. It's a bare essential. But I really feel that the kind of 21st century sounding pop song vibe of it contrasts badly with the otherwise psychedelic 60s feeling, atmosphere focused vibe of the rest of the album, just creating this unnecessary juxtaposition in tonality at the end. The chorus is hardly any more than the minimum needing for a generic closing ballad, and it feels that after the "I'll find you" and if I gotta be the man that walks the earth alone, then it just needs to explode, go somewhere, really take off. But instead this bloody beat just persists on. And Marr's contributions aren't anything memorable or significant. They don't add really anything. I wouldn't know that anyone particular had contributed to this track. I just don't find this represents the best aspects of the album, which is definitely the looser, more free-flowing parts. I do see a bit of that towards the end of this song, but by that time just bored out my skull. I definitely did have a better time with this album than I thought I would. Honestly, I was expecting to give this like a 4 or 5 out of 10, but I came out reinvigorated with Noel Gallagher and his role in modern music. He hasn't created something that put anywhere near the absolute pedestal of Morning Glory, or definitely maybe for that matter, but this has some of his most mature and ambitious songwriting to date. But I just cannot help but feel that he fears moving too far away from Oasis stylings and pop rock in fear of alienating his fan base. But for me, there's nothing more I want him to do than escape from the shackles and just create something truly special. 7 out of 10, would recommend it, but don't expect the world. This has been TheAIbumMan. Thanks for watching, comment, subscribe, and long live rock and roll.